I'm recording now, so if you all want to clap on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, that was fast. Good luck with that.
Yeah, that's
cool.
That was exciting.
This podcast will make you a goddamn sexual tyrannosaurus, just like me. Welcome to Predator Minute, the podcast that breaks down the 1987 action sci-fi classic Predator 1 minute at a time. I'm John Zabriskie.
And I'm Jeff Glover.
And with us today, we have some very special guests. We have our first ever movie by minute crossover with the boys from the Indiana Jones Minute. We have Tom Taylor.
Hello.
And we have Gerry Porter.
That is me, a movie by minute Tyrannosaurus.
There you go. The boys recently finished up recording and releasing their episodes for The Last Crusade. Well, it's just a matter of time until the Crystal Skull starts seething its way into their recording lives.
There's a couple decades between movies, right? We've got some time. Right?
Lots of time.
Relax, right? Right?
Tom's the movie by minute Triceratops. got a weird shaped head, eats plants.
I'm trying to eat this tree. You guys go on without me. We're talking about Crystal Skull. I'll be along.
You're a sexual megalodon.
Oh, I like where we're going with this. All the just kind of different dinosaurs I'd represent. That's a different podcast, so that's Jurassic Park. And
there you go.
Those guys. But yeah, we'll circle back around to our connections with the guests here in a moment. But we're talking minute 16 of Predator. Minute 16 opens with Billy drinking from a vine and ends with Billy making an exciting discovery. This is an all Billy minute, which is quite exciting.
All Billy all the time.
But yeah, you guys being the guests, would you want to open up with a particular thing you noticed with this minute?
Sure.
Okay.
What is Billy drinking?
Oh, this is a great question, Gerry.
It's kind of a, it's a simple one. I mean, it's not sugar cane, right? I mean, that kind of grows in stalks.
No, I don't think it's sugar cane.
So,
either.
I mean, it's maybe an appropriate climate for that, but it looks like that vine is something that's sweeping down.
Yeah, and were you guys disturbed by how much of it he lets drip onto his collar and lapel?
Into his collar, like down his neck.
It made me cringe. I was like, it's going to hit his skin. No, don't let it hit your skin.
Oh, yeah. It's all sticky and clammy now.
Ooh.
Exactly. I was totally weirded out. He's got all that sticky juice spilled all over his camo bib.
No, and it's just going to sit in there. It's going to feel wet for the next hour. Oh,
yeah, kind of a sugary thing. Have you guys discussed where is Billy from?
It was one of the first minutes we talked about Billy. Billy Soul. He is his roots are he's half Sioux, half Italian. I forget where in America his character is supposed to be from. But I could go into the origins too if that was really a thing.
That's what. Well, I'm wondering why does this guy know? I mean, if he's half Sioux and half Italian,
it's quite the dinner.
Great at a lot of things. Yeah, I just don't. I just don't know. I mean, the tropical vine. Why? I mean, he's certainly one with the earth here. I mean, that's kind of how he's portrayed in the movie. Which is cool. I mean, that's sort of his special power,
right?
His superpower there. But I'm wondering why is he so familiar with the tropical rainforest that no one else is, drinking from the jungle.
No.
Affinity at all for nature, but like every time he goes on a mission, he like just gets all bookwormy and like reads up on the air. Oh, this fine.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe he's like, I know the local flora and fauna now.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a character like this who is like the expert tracker and can, smell hanging carcasses before he sees them and stuff, who's not Native American? Like a earth hippie or something, or
maybe Chewbacca from Return of the Jedi?
Oh, that's a great answer. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Is it possible that he's just a very a staunch a staunch supporter member of the Audubon Society? And maybe he's a lot of outdoor stuff.
I think that's it.
This sort of thing is it is sort of at some point. Carl Weathers kind of makes fun of everybody for they call enough with the Boy Scouts stuff.
Yeah. And then, but then he jumps right back into it right after he makes that comment. He's right there building the traps.
Yeah.
He's Jerry. I don't know. If someone's part of the Audubon Society, are they really just hacking on vines and stuff that are just.
In Billy's chapter, they do.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, though, about he drinks from the vine, then he turns around and he seems to immediately know that something's going on behind those trees.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering what draws him. Does he hear something? Does he smell something? Is it just his spidey sense? Does he drink that milky liquid and just immediately now know what to do?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Well, what's funny is I wonder, they bring up several times the other characters talk about being in Nam or Cambodia.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was apparently this jungle is much more, dense. Cambodia was Kansas compared to this shit, right? But I wonder about Billy. Maybe is he a special forces guy too? Was he in Vietnam? I don't know.
I'd really have to go back and look at my notes for his whole deal. But
seems like all these guys have been together a bunch of times at least, right?
Yeah. They've done several missions together, and I imagine most of them are supposed to be Vietnam vets.
Mm-hmm.
There's something. It's that 80s thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's that 80s thing, and it's also that Motley Crue sort of thing. Not the lovable 80s Motley Crue that is the band. I just mean like any movie. It's like Scooby Doo. You have people from various backgrounds, and one is really good at deduction, and one is really good at eating dog food.
Right.
And
really good at eating dog food.
They all have their place.
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and
because I was going through this, you're like, okay, so Billy, I guess he's Sioux and Italian,
mm-hmm.
and then Jesse the Body Ventura is he's supposed to be like a Southern good old boy, right?
Yeah, he's.
What'd you say, a libertarian?
But yeah, I'm gonna say Billy's from Kentucky. He has that Southern drawl that we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
A firefight, Major.
There was a firefight.
And then his best friend is his bro, so to speak, is Mac.
Yeah.
Who I'm not sure where he's from, but maybe American, but a different cultural background,
mm-hmm.
perhaps. And then Dutch is I don't know, is he Dutch?
Yeah. Clearly Canadian.
Clearly.
Yeah.
He has that mid-Atlantic thing going on. Stick around. Dude, American.
But the beauty is they're all American.
Well, not only that, but I mean, the thing we're overlooking a lot here with Billy just straight up drinking from a vine is like they're not in like their home country or a home state or whatever. They're like a continent away, perhaps. So no way would you just be straight up drinking like whatever water or eating whatever food you're finding around there. It's just so many stories in their production alone of these people just having massive, massive illness from drinking the water and eating the food in Mexico.
Yeah.
It's just funny how like immune to every single jungle threat there is out there.
Yeah, John, I read that in your show notes for this minute, and I was cracking up reading it because you mentioned that in the survival posts that people that would drain vines for liquid would usually catch it in some sort of container and then probably boil it before they drank it. And if you drink it directly from the vine, I think you wrote it's essentially drinking instant diarrhea.
Just that, Billy. Exactly.
Yeah, sorry, Billy. You're going to discover something else in about 45 minutes.
He's begging to have his spine ripped out by the end.
Yeah, you're gonna wish you had just gotten flayed. Something simple.
Something a little less painful.
Yeah, took a little less time.
Tracks all over the place, if you know what I mean.
Now you're speaking my language. I love skid marks.
So should we talk about the next step in this minute? He drinks his diarrhea juice and then turns around, starts trekking through the jungle because he hears something, senses something, and we get to kind of the big reveal of this minute, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he pulls back some leaves.
Well, wait.
Okay.
Hang on. I don't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
At second 32, right where he does that, he puts his hand up on a branch.
Mm-hmm.
And did you guys notice that branch has a very, very conspicuous looking jut out twig that looks identical to a snail?
Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. You're right.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah. And so I'm wondering, is that a predator snail?
Oh my.
It's like completely camouflaged in. And the way they shoot it, it's as if somebody said, we got to get this little branch, shoot it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like right there in the foreground, and then they do the rack focus away from his glove and away from the predator snail.
And every time I watch this, maybe 8 times, this little scene, this minute, and I go, that's a snail. Oh, no, it's not.
Yeah, you're right. It looks just like a snail.
Well, and if you're listening to this second, like you hear the little... And it's the first time in the movie you're hearing that little Peter Cullen trill, because Peter Cullen did all the noises in the voice of the Predator.
Oh, cool.
Voice of Optimus Prime. He's the one making a little clicky sound right when he's coming up to the bodies. So there's a really good chance that the Predator's just hanging around there, waiting for something to wander into his little trap.
Yeah.
If it is a trap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The music here is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It all throughout there's like this triplet motif musically, and it's like gibbity 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 gibbity
Yes,
gibbity
the
gibbity
drums.
gibbity gibbity gibbity. Yeah, it's really good actually. Really well done. You're right. That right there reminds me of the jungle.
It's a classic jungle sound right there.
Yeah,
we've talked about the drums. The drums is probably one of my favorite parts of the score when it comes in, and especially if you're watching this in a true surround sound system. The drums come through all the speakers. It just envelopes you. You feel it all around you, and it brings that sense of dread. And here it is again, right before we get a big reveal, kind of the first real horror moment of the movie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they don't go with like the stupid, silly, like, kind of generic, the natives are restless drums.
Right.
Yeah.
Jungle, boom, boom, boom. That kind of, it's like just a really, really, really fast, kind of high pitched small drum. Just dibba. You wouldn't even necessarily think it's a drum. It's just tension.
Yeah, like a heartbeat just going. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Billy at this
really,
moment,
really well
is coming right up to it. You mentioned the drums, Jerry. I also made a note that it's I don't know how to describe it, but it's almost like this, just like this wall of sound. Like as he's about to uncover the bodies, there's just this. I don't know. I can't describe it. It's almost like you're just like the sound of vacuum would make or something like that. Not a vacuum cleaner. We know that sound, but like just the sound of, I don't know, almost, I don't even know how
like the air getting sucked out of everything around you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like a really deep white noise. Just it's hard to describe, but you hear it again later on when Billy is just looking into the jungle a few minutes later, and Dutch has to ask him, what is he looking at? What he's looking for? Either I think that might be actually after the guerrilla camp. Oh, but just to give credit real quick for the composer, this is Alan Silvestri, who has done tons and tons of movies. So he's kind of like parallel there with John Williams and Danny Elfman as these people who emerged from the 80s, and they're still working hard today, all of them.
Oh, yeah.
He's amazing. The score in this movie is something I continually talk about as one of the best elements of this film. I just love it. Okay, so we get past the little snail.
Somehow
he reaches his hand up there, and his head kind of pops up, We see his hat. We see him looking. And what I like about this is the camera switches, and we get a camera shot from behind him as he's kind of crawling over this branch. And even before he pushes the leaves out of the way, you can see a little bit of red in between the cracks of the leaves. And, you know, it's very quick, but right then you start to realize, oh shit, we're about to see something. And then he pushes those leaves aside, and we get our first gory kind of horror moment with the skinned bodies hanging.
Yeah, you guys want to talk about the skinned bodies? Talk about the flayed?
You know, I did wonder this. Yeah. So, you know, Predator doesn't use all parts of the buffalo.
He does not. He does
so
not.
as a matter, he's I guess he seems like a dermatarian.
Although later on he's like like a phrenologist or something. He's got all those skulls, but he didn't take these guys' skulls.
Right.
Yeah.
He's telling some futures.
So it made me wonder, like, you know, when we find out a little bit later in the movie, like, he only hunts you if you're armed?
Yeah, I don't know. He's like Papa John killing lions, just leaving them in the field. What the hell?
Well, it's really strange, because why doesn't everybody set aside all their weapons and then peacefully walk out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And you know, I think it's just the appeal is too strong for these guys who are just trained to just fight everything and defeat everything. Right? They haven't lost so far, so it's like it's just like pour more bullets on it. Okay, we lost a couple of guys. Pour more bullets on it, because guaranteed they've gone into other things with like much larger crews, and they're just like, they just didn't shoot it enough the first time.
Yeah.
Well, is it one of those things where, like, for the Predator, the skin is a delicacy?
Maybe.
And so that's what he's not going to waste, on the sort of sour body and the viscera, the organs, but the skin. Now
the skin is something to save. It is. It's just like, real life hunters is what I was reading in the original script. I made this awesome discovery where I've been using like the shooting script this whole time, where it was like the January 87 script, and the film comes out in like April of 87. So it's like, by that time, the script is pretty much up to date with the movie, but I did find a 1985 first draft. And in that, you do see shots of the Predator ship much later. And you see the skins of the people that Dutch knows stretched out and drying. As gruesome of a scene. So exactly. You're reacting exactly like McTiernan, the director, reacted, which was, we don't need that. We don't need to go that far, like early Jeepers Creepers style. We're just going to say.
Well, they brought this back. So if I'm a fan of Predator 2 as well. And one of the big scenes in the first half hour or so of Predator 2 is when they come into a warehouse. And there's a whole bunch of bodies hanging from the ceilings.
Just bodies.
Yeah, just and they've been flayed, they've been skinned, and so it's a callback to this exact discovery.
Does he have just a paring knife?
I wonder that.
It's very clean.
Very clean.
From the first time I've seen this movie back in the 80s, I've always wondered that. It's like you only see him with this giant wrist blade, and there's like that does not look like a precision weapon as much as just looks like a stab, so
you don't actually see the skin, so he may have done like a horrible job of it, but he finally got all the skin off the guys, no matter if it's like in thousands of pieces. He got the job done. Just wasn't pretty.
I was reading about flaying and skinning, and I immediately wanted to stop. So
did you Google that, John?
I Googled it.
That's a terrible idea. Oh man.
He very well. He might have an easier time doing it in the jungle, just because the humidity probably makes it easier to skin than, say, like an Arctic dry
good
climate.
God.
Just fluffs right off after a certain point.
It would like flake. Yeah, it would flake. It would just flake.
Just have chunks. It'd be a mess.
Yep.
You'd be sweeping it up when you're done.
So he kills. He kills, what's his name, Hopper, and all these guys. He kills all these people, and he somehow removes their skin. But he doesn't do anything with them. He doesn't eat them.
Nope.
He doesn't eat their skin. Nope. He doesn't. It's really just nihilistic.
Yeah, it makes me think it's like a trophy, right?
Yeah, the skin itself is.
it's like a trophy.
It's trophies of men.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just not play the game.
And everybody wins. I have a question about like the sort
Go
of it kind of goes to the very beginning of the movie. Like when I sat down to watch this again, and I remember my friend when he saw it before I did in the theater. This is 87, right?
Yeah.
And he went into the movie not knowing anything about it. He just saw a poster with like Arnold Schwarzenegger on. He's in the jungle. He's like, oh, it's gonna be like some sort of commando thing. And from the first shot,
the way to do it.
Yeah, but the first shot, you see like this, obvious, spacecraft like heading down to Earth and stuff. And he's like, oh my God, this is that kind of movie. This is gonna be fantastic. But I do wonder if that hadn't been the first shot of the movie, if you would you would see like even stuff like this and be like, oh my God, they're like, like Carl Weathers keeps saying like, it's just a couple of guys out there. They're, they're really wily and stuff, but we'll get them. Like could, even here seeing these flayed guys with all their guts on the ground and everything. Oh, it could just be some sick, crazy gorilla dudes out in the woods.
Yeah. We've talked about this. Yeah.
We literally just talked about this last week.
Yeah.
Just take that out and you have yourself like this like instant suspense. Like it's just built into the movie about who in the world is doing this crazy thing. Like who's watching us with like this high tech equipment, because you don't see that for like, you don't actually see the creature until like, I don't know, like whenever, not when Blaine dies. I think when Blaine dies, you just see like the eyes. That's maybe your first hint that it's like more than just maybe a man. But yeah, it's something where I think McTiernan even fought just to have someone's taken out of the Alien Association before it was necessary. But he was fighting with Fox Studio, and that's a big studio to fight with. Go ahead, Jim.
Is the movie better with Predator being an alien? Because I thought about this. Is this one of those things? It's all about American hubris. And we've gotten too big for our britches, so he's going to de-skin us, and then, maybe our britches fit.
Don't make new britches.
And I just...
humiliating.
No, and I did. I wondered, is that the...
humiliating.
Is that the point of this? Is that it's like, hey, look, we're not the only life form in the cosmos. And this guy's going to put a beat down on us because, we're bumping our heads against the ceiling as Americans and we're trying to break through like we're the greatest. And it's like, no, we're not even close. Here's a guy and he's, these are the Green Berets and it's Arnold Schwarzenegger and,
Yeah.
It's there to take us down a peg, either as Americans or just as
That's a pretty interesting. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting take on it, especially considering the time period, right? 1987.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Kind of the height of American hubris, right? The stock market was going through the roof. Everyone's making money. People just snorting a bunch of cocaine. And we're on top of the world. And so to take it and just cut it down, right? That's an interesting idea.
And I feel like this is. I mean, this gets a little heavy, but I feel like that period in the 80s with all these movies like Commando and Rambo and like all that kind of stuff, it's like we're sort of trying to fix the problems of Vietnam. And so we're revisiting it to sort of write it to be like, well, no, actually we're really tough. We're going to go back in and we're going to either, get the POWs back, or we're the baddest people because we served in Vietnam and Cambodia. The 80s. I remember that about a lot of movies in the 80s, like Uncommon Valor and Chuck Norris stuff, and First Blood, and Exactly. There was just a lot of that going on. And it's a strange time. We have a mix of like we're sort of revisiting Vietnam, and at the same time, it's that 80s American hubris with the stock market is killing it, and everything's going
Soviets
great.
Are the bad guys, like evil.
Soviets are the bad guys. We're the best. We win everything in the Olympics: horseshoes, equestrian, gymnastics, volleyball. Yeah,
and at the end, like Dutch has that at the very end on that last chopper ride home or back to base or whatever, like you can tell on Dutch's face, this was not a victory by any means. It was simply just, we survived and somehow escaped, which, is maybe the lesson that Vietnam was trying to teach us the first time. You don't go back. You're not going to fix it with the guns, and you're not going to fix it with the big burly American forces.
Well, and that's what's so interesting. He's the guy who's always skeptical throughout the entire movie. And B, you're right, it's not a victory at the end. It was just survival, and he doesn't want this, and he doesn't want this job, and he only takes rescue missions now.
They're not assassins.
And then C, yeah, you're like, he's the one guy who's, not a natural born citizen of America.
That's a good point.
Right? In the movie, as far as I can recall, I mean, the woman that they rescue or whatever is, I suppose isn't, maybe, but
yeah, but she's not part of the team, right? The first go around here.
Yeah, but she survives. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
not calling out immigrants. I'm just saying he is. I mean, his accent is something that throughout the movie he's whatever. He doesn't.
He goes like this.
Quote, sound American. Yeah. and yet, so he's somewhat transcends this American hubris.
Oh,
he's more worldly.
That's a good point. But like, if you know Arnold, the figure, and I would just call him, the historical figure of Arnold, that he came to America with a purpose, with like these great grandiose? No, big plans, large plans to marry Kennedy and become a star and become a politician, and he did all those things. So it's interesting how he is honestly playing against type in this movie, and I think it's why it works so well. One, he's playing against type, and two, he's actually part of a team. There's not a lot of team movies that Arnold is in, and I just love how he operates within the team. So many times in his movies, he's just going solo. Either he's a solo bad guy or he's a solo good guy, and here he's not solo until the third act.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you want to do our connection to Indiana Jones?
Of course.
Yeah. So, I mean, other than just me really wanting to have you guys on because you're one of my top listens, like I said, on the, in my podcast lists, not just Movies by Minute, just by any podcast. I could not help but think, like, how do I make a connection to Indiana Jones Minute where I can just like have a good reason for bringing them on, other than like, I just really want you on. It's like, how can I tie that in? There's some tenuous things here and there, but then when I was watching the minutes ahead, a few weeks ago, I was thinking, this is perfect. This discovery of something in the jungle, and Billy is frightened. He is scared. Instantly remind me of the beginning of Raiders when the Peruvian Porter, I learned was the name, the guy with the funky, alpaca hat. When he comes, he's in the jungle in South America in 1936 with Indy, and he pushes aside the brush and comes across this spooky statue, and all the birds, just like in here, all the birds also flock and storm out of the way. Yeah. And he just runs out of the movie. I noticed.
Yeah, Billy does keep his cool a lot more than that guy. Billy's upset, but he holds it together.
He runs about 5 feet. We see in the next minute. But
right.
He holds it together.
But yeah, no, I thought of the same thing when I watched this. I was like, oh, that's directly, it's that, and it's also the scene in Temple of Doom when they're approaching Pankot Palace and they come across that that I forget, we had a name for it. I forget what it was though.
Yeah, the
yeah, it was like the little like roadside mini temple on the way to the big one. Yeah, with like the fingers and like and don't come up here. Like warns Shorty not to come up there. And yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like a total cross between both of those. Because the first one isn't grisly at all, but it has the same exact like flutter of birds and bats and stuff, and the guy freaking out. And then the Temple of Doom one has like just some kind of bloody kind of queasiness to it, which this one has in spades.
Yeah, this one has a great color palette of green and red.
Yeah. This really does hit that color palette we've talked about, like the contrast of the drippy, wet red against the natural green.
Yeah, it's the natural really drippy good. Wet vine. Yeah,
oh yeah, the milky wet vine.
Yeah, even the jungle looks sick. Yeah. Just like like it's like Earth's connective tissue.
Yeah, Billy's drinking out of a tendon.
which
the lifeblood of the jungle.
It's true. Well, it's kind of interesting. It's like we have this whole Earth human thing, and then it's like and the Predator he's really other.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all he's all up in the trees. and we don't realize for a good hour and a half they don't even figure that out.
Long,
they keep
honestly.
looking on the ground. Yeah, exactly.
Where could they be? There are no boot prints. I don't know.
Go up in that tree and see if you can see anything.
Right, exactly.
Maybe we can roll a car towards them and throw some grenades.
Right, maybe this is the gorillas. So I think one link I'm thinking about right now with the statue and the little temple and these bodies is perhaps all three are meant to be these harbingers, right? You have that classic horror trope of, the guy at the gas station, like, you don't want to go to that camp. Like, there's a bunch of, there's a bunch of bad tales. Totally. Yeah, like the same thing here. Like if they, like you're all saying, just turn tail and they're just like, like this isn't the best time to, find our dudes. Like, right, maybe they're avoiding it. Maybe the predator is putting this up as like a little warning sign to say, this is, my hunting ground. If you're coming in, like,
you seem like nice guys. Don't go too far. Don't make me do this.
Exactly. Like maybe just turn around. This is your last chance. Your only warning.
All I did was skin a few guys and hang them from the branches.
I didn't know you knew Hopper. Let it go.
You know what it reminded me though of is John, you had mentioned something about like horror jump scares, because this is kind of a little bit of a jump scare here as we reveal the skinned bodies, and it kind of reminded me of the classic 80s horror like slasher trope where our killer, I'm thinking of like Friday the 13th, where Jason goes on a killing spree and he kills several bodies and sort of strategically hides them, throughout whatever barn or house or
the pantry.
Right. And then there's always that scene later on in the movie when the final girl or whoever it is like running through the house and screaming left and right. And she just happens to bump into the pantry and out pops the body, right?
Billy.
It falls down. Yeah. So what I'm saying here is Billy is the final girl and he's just discovering the first body.
Yeah. For some reason, this actually reminds me of, I was trying to think of other like kind of jump scary things. And the very first thing that came to mind is Star Trek 2. When they're on the space station, the regular space station, and everybody's gone, and then Bones just like bumps into some dangling hands, and it's kind of like this. It's like these upside down bodies and stuff, and it's a very like there's a lot of stinger music, and that's right where my mind goes. Yeah, I'm thinking about Star Trek now, guys.
Is it, is this movie just Alien in the Jungle?
I'm thinking the same thing when I'm like reading the script and watching the movie lots and lots of times that, and it is ultimately produced by Fox. I don't know if Silver Pictures did Alien too, but I know.
I don't know. I mean, it's like Alien mixed with Commando.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'd say it's dropping those awesome 80s action heroes into, right, an Alien movie, and they don't know anything about the aliens. So it's not like Aliens, like the Commandos, like know what to expect. It's like, I like your description. It's like crossing over two things and seeing what happens.
It follows the same structure, right? Because like a lot of people will describe Alien, the original Alien, as like a slasher movie, but in a spaceship, right?
Definitely.
And, the entire team is taken out one by one, and you've got your final girl that takes on, the big bad guy. And we kind of have the same thing here, right? We have some kind of scary villain taking out an entire team, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger is apparently the final girl, and
300-pound Austrian final girl,
right? And we get our final showdown. So I think that's a good comparison. Yeah, and then we find later, so a couple decades later, we find out that Alien and Predator live in the same universe. So.
Yeah. Well, exactly. You find out in Predator 2 at the very end when Danny Glover is going to the spaceship and he sees the giant alien skull up in the Yautja spaceship.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any other points? I feel like we've covered.
Let's see. My field manual for the Army Jungle Operations. It's not very exciting this week. I'm going to skip it because it doesn't relate very much. Next week's relates a little bit better. Next week's. Okay. We're going to, guys, did you have anything else to add for minute 16?
I don't think so. I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. Now's the part of the show where we ask, where can people find you all? I don't know who wants to start. Let's maybe start with the Jones boys.
Well, you can find us at IndianaJonesMinute.com. That's where all our episodes are, all of our links to things like our Patreon over at patreon.com/IndianaJonesMinute. You can get shirts over at TeePublic on our store there. Yeah, and you can find us on Facebook. We got a thriving Facebook community over there at the Indiana Jones Minute and the Listeners Crusade group, where you can come and hang out and talk about Indy and us and why it's taking us so long to get to Crystal Skull.
Just savoring every sweet
yes.
minute.
Each minute will be 3 hours long.
Oh, and I would encourage anybody to join over there and come up with their own, Predator crossover.
Oh, yeah.
Predator Indiana Jones crossover.
Very short-lived crossover. I was thinking about looking that up, but then, I don't know. I couldn't find the time, unfortunately. I'll let you know next week if I look it up. A good crossover. I bet there has to be something out there.
Well, it's here's a softball. It's afraid of the unknown. There we go. Yeah.
Knowledge was their treasure.
What? Oh shit.
Except in this movie, I think in the conversation we're having, I think I said something along the lines of human trophies were his treasure. Okay, Jeff, what about you?
Oh, my favorite part of the show. When I tell everyone they can find me at Carl_Hungus on Twitter, and then I immediately get flooded with follow requests.
You might have to tamp that down, not say that every week. So that
shooting fish in a barrel.
Right.
That's right. It's too easy.
That's Carl with a K.
That's right. Underscore. Capital H Hungus.
314. Carl Hungus Pie.
I want to say to our Indiana Jones guests, thank you so much for being here. This was really awesome, and we appreciate your time. And it was really fun talking about minute 16 with you guys.
Oh, thank you. This is fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Do you guys think you can come back next week?
Yes, we'll be lurking in a tree because we figured out how to do that instead of just walking around on the ground. We'll be
drinking some milky vine milk.
Yeah. Pouring it on our our entrail cereal. Yeah.
Dumping it on your lapels. Yes.
Guys, come on. I haven't eaten all day. I'm starving.
Our Hopper Poppers.
It's guts.
Yes.
All right. Well, if you've ever, drank. If you've ever drank some mysterious liquid out of a jungle vine, email us at predatorminute@gmail.com. We're on Twitter and Facebook at Predator Minute. You can find us on all the podcatching apps, the big three: iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. Although I don't know if Google Play is even that big a deal in the podcast game. I'm going to have to pick your guys' brains for that afterwards.
We know.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah. Someone might know. But you can find us there. And for Predator Minute, I've been John Zabriskie.
And I'm Jeff Glover.
Oh, hey, I'm Tom Taylor.
Oh. Hey, I'm Gerry Porter.
And until next time.
Stick around.
Governor Schwarzenegger, I didn't know you were on the show. That's fantastic.
Be all the week.
I'll be all the week, yeah.